Hey guys, I'm back with another video. I'm going to give you 5 rules that you should always be following when it comes to tanking. This video can be used for new players, experienced players, non-hardcore, or hardcore servers. In the background here, I think this was last week, I'm tanking a lower Blackrock Spire dual wield Fury Prot. My gear looks insanely fresh because it was. Right now, I'm farming Prebis on my Twitch, and we're also getting ready to raid as a guild. I'm over on Doomhow, and the stream is right above me. Now, these 5 rules I'm going to give you are more mental than physical, so they're not going to be, really silly rules like be sure to wear a shield when you need to. These are rules that I'm going to give you that you should kind of be looking into every single dungeon that you do. Now, again, these videos are off the top of my head here, so, it might take me, I might stutter or whatever, but let's go ahead and get started. Rule number 1 is assume that your group knows nothing. And that's not me being rude. That's not me being mean. That's not me being toxic. You need to come into every dungeon, guilty or not, people that you played with or not. You need to assume that they know nothing. Assume that they don't know how to CC. Assume that they don't know how the polls work. Assume that they don't know what the bosses do. Assume that they don't know any decurses that they need to throw out, any dispels, any poison resistance totems, any diseases on the mobs. Assume that they don't know that the mobs run away. Assume that they don't know the mobs fear. The overall rule that I'm giving you right now is you need to be on top of your game all the time as a tank. And this especially applies for hardcore servers. You need to assume that your group knows nothing. When you start assuming that your group knows nothing, it keeps you on top of your game, and it keeps you fresh, keeps you alive, and more importantly, keeps your group alive as well. Again, assume your group knows nothing as far as what's in the dungeon, how to do certain polls, how to crowd control. Always assume that they're not going to crowd control, even if you mark it. So that way you have a backup plan in your head. Okay, this guy didn't sheep. I need to kill this mob first instead. Let's mark it skull instead of moon. Or, okay, the hunter trap broke early. I need to do this instead, or have the hunter's pet tank that, mark X instead of square. You need to be thinking 3 steps ahead of everybody else in your group if you want to have successful dungeon runs all the time and keep everyone safe and have nobody die. Again, rule number 1, and honestly my most important rule, assume your group knows nothing. Number 2, complacency. Now, this isn't necessarily for you. This is necessarily for other players in your group. And what I mean by complacency is I see it time and time again on my dungeons and my raids when I used to raid lead all the time. People get complacent when you do a good tanking job. When they realize that you are a good tank, they will start to slack in some things. Maybe the rogue starts missing kicks. Maybe they start missing counter spells. Maybe they don't attack the targets that you mark anymore because they think, oh, well, Frenzy's a great tank. He'll handle it. Or whoever's watching this video, oh, yeah, they're a great tank. They'll handle it. I can slack off a little bit. I'm telling you, it sounds silly, but it happens all the time. As soon as you start doing a good tanking job and you start running with kind of regulars or people like that, they start to get complacent. They start to do things. They just start clear casting. They just start, not even thinking. They're just numb. They're just, okay, I got a DPS. They forget mechanics. They forget things all the time. This kind of follows in perfectly with number 1, as in assuming that the group knows nothing. But also from a standpoint of, okay, well, I'm a great tank. These guys aren't going to be doing as much as they need to in order to stay alive and help the group as much as I am. I'm telling you, it happens all the time. If you watch my stream, it happens all the time. I run with players, or the players halfway through the dungeon are like, okay, well, I can kind of slack off a little bit. This guy's a great tank. He's just going to carry. That follows in the rule number 2 or rule number 1 of like, you have to always be on top of this. You like as a tank, you always have to be on top. And again, my 3rd rule here follows right into 1 and 2. And that means lead. You have to lead. You're tanking. These people, not only is your life is in hand of the healers, of course, but your life is basically a meat shield for everybody else. You have to keep, especially in a hardcore sense, you have to keep people alive, and to go hand in hand with that, you have to lead. You have to know the polls. You have to know how to CC. You have to know if this guy doesn't do this, I need to do this. If you don't know the dungeons as a tank, you are setting not only yourself, but your group up for failure. Do the research. Get the add-ons. Look up the YouTube videos. Look at some of my dungeon guides if I have one for that dungeon. You have to know what's going on in some of these dungeons. Like for lower Blackrock Spire, to be honest, some of these casters do a lot of damage. Some of them throw out some pretty nasty curses. If I don't know that and I'm coming in here and I'm just doing my thing and just not even paying attention, not only am I putting myself in risk, I'm putting my group in risk. You have to know how to do, and we got a greater fire protection potion recipe. They're huge for the guild. But you have to know how to lead. You have to learn how to lead. And that includes Discord comms, especially in hardcore. If you're doing any dungeon above level, like if you're basically doing any dungeon above Zul'Farrak, you need to be in Discord. But not only do you need to be in Discord, you need to learn how to talk to people. You need to learn how to lead people. Okay, I'm pulling this over here. I need you to do this, and I'm going to do that. And the healer, I need you to sit over there so you LOS the caster. Like, you have to be doing that all the time, especially in hardcore, and it gets 20 times more important in raids. You have to be able to communicate, and not only communicate, you have to be able to lead. If you don't know how to do that, I suggest starting another alt, doing lower level dungeons such as RFC, WC, Dead Mines, SFK, and just shouting out or doing basic comms with these people until you feel more comfortable talking to people. If you can't lead, you shouldn't be tanking. It's really that simple. My fourth one here is never go into a pull without rage. Find a way to have rage before the pull. And we talk about this all the time in my previous tanking videos. You should be using the last target in every single one of your pulls as a rage bait. Using that last target that you have, or that. So perfect example right here. There's 5 mobs or 6 mobs in this pull. I'm going to save that last mob and I'm just going to auto attack it and make sure I get about half of a rage bar, a quarter of a rage bar, and anger management is going to help that rage not decay. So that way I can have that rage for the next pull. If you are walking into your next groups with no rage, you are setting yourself up for failure. You are setting your group up for failure. Because I promise you, when you get to some of these level 60 dungeons, like Undead Strat, Live Strat, and you walk into some of these pulls without rage, your mage, exactly with rule number 2, they're going to get complacent. They're going to start blasting. You have no rage. And guess who dies? That mage, he gets 3 shot by 3 mobs in live strat because he's not paying attention. You didn't have rage. Both people are at fault there. Now, great ways to make sure if you don't have, see here, I'm sitting here with no rage. Look at this. I have my blood rage cooldown coming up. I use Berserker Rage into a pull. That increases rage as you get hit. Berserker Rage is a very slept on ability. Use critters. These rats, these roaches, you can actually get flurry procs off of those critters as well. You need to be having rage every single pull that you walk into, or you are setting yourself or your group up for failure. Number 5, and my last final rule, I'm going to kind of jumble 3 things into it. Keep tabs, take notes, be open to feedback. What I really mean by this is if you get some good players, keep them. If you have a good healer, add them. Say, hey, you were a good healer. We had a great group. I'm going to add you. Let's play again sometime. On hardcore, you never know. You could wake up the next day and that guy could be dead. But, in normal servers, always keep tabs of people that are good players. If you have good players, the runs go faster. You get more chances at your pre-bis. You get more chances at loot. Maybe that person that you keep playing with has 3 other friends. Now you have a pre-made 5-man group. You all get along. Now you have Discord comms. It all just goes hand in hand with keeping tabs on people and just making sure you have people to play with. And what I mean by taking notes is, okay, well, let's say something in this lower Blackrock Spire went wrong. Maybe I did a pull wrong. Maybe I forgot the mobs do like a hex. And I was like, okay, well, I didn't mark those skull. I'm going to take some notes, some mental notes, or simply just write it down. Okay, I need to do this pull better. Because if I don't pull that, then this thing's going to get hexed, or the healer's going to get hexed. And then I don't have heals for like 6 seconds. We have no dispel. You got to always be, again, like 3 steps ahead, and then also taking notes on what you could have done better. Even if they're just mental notes, you don't have to necessarily write them down. If you're good with memory, okay, next time I do this dungeon or next reset, I got to do this pull better, or maybe I should use last stand here, or maybe this pull hits kind of hard and the range is kind of weird on this. Maybe I should shield wall, things like that as far as taking notes, and be open to feedback. Now, I mean, if you guys watch my YouTube videos, sometimes people in the comments don't give the greatest feedback, and some of them I don't even respond to because I'm like, what are you even talking about? But take this with a grain of salt, but always be open to feedback, regardless if you think it's not good feedback. Like, always be listening to what people have to say. Even if I've tanked these dungeons for years, I still have people in my whispers saying, asking me for tips or, giving me feedback, even if it's just compliments. Like, take it. Like, it's great to have people compliment you, but it's also good to have people offer some sort of constructive criticism. Maybe this guy was a huge raid tank back in the day, and like, he has some good tips for you. Like, take the feedback. You need to take the feedback. But these are 5 rules that I want you to go through with whenever you tank. I hope this video helped. Be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys another time.